So you need to allocate what you have and have an understanding of when all you have is taken up. Many times you ever got to a place where you said, wait, I thought I had more money. I can see people shaking their heads and smiling. But if you had a plan, if you had the budget, if you had that visual, you would know when all that you had was taken up. And of course, it helps you to make a list of your income sources. Now, we can't take it for granted these days that persons only have one source of income. We would recognize with COVID and the period during the pandemic, those persons who couldn't bake suddenly found out that they could bake. Another source of income came in. There are persons who do hair braiding, dressmaking, other things on the side, along with having a regular weekly pay or monthly pay. So these are some of the reasons why we plan and why we budget. But there are two other things. Planning eases the worry and the anxiety. Planning eases the worry and the anxiety. You have a beforehand knowledge of what will happen. How many people actually sit down and before they get paid, write out all the things that they have to pay and then see if what they will get paid can cover it? Do you do that? At least two people. Thank you, that's great. So having that plan also gives us better control So overall, we have better control of what is available to us. Yeah? Now, each plan is going to be unique. So we'll just go, why plan, why budget? And I'm sure that you have a record of these things. Each plan is unique. No one is the same. They may have similar things, but the amounts will not be the same. And sometimes the items can vary tremendously. So each plan is unique. But there are some things that are common to every single plan. And these things that are common, so we have some common items. Would be the sources of income. Another thing that will be common would be your fixed expenses. And when we talk about fixed expenses, we're simply talking about those figures that hardly change. For example, your rent may not change unless the contract is up and the landlord raises the rent. The mortgage payment will hardly change. There used to be a time when the mortgage interest rate changed that the mortgage payment also changed. But these days we can have a locked-in mortgage interest rate for 5 years. Some people may go 6 or 7 years. So and the sources of income, as I would have mentioned before, is whether it is your regular job or the job that you do on the side, whatever that side job is. So you have your fixed expenses, and these can also include school fees, whether it is guild fees or fees for the books or stuff like that. It would include school fees as well, and can even include a car payment if you have a car loan. So these are anything that hardly changes. And then you have your variable expenses. And these are those items that will possibly change over a period. And some of these, as you would know, include a very popular thing we're talking about now, light bill. Subject to change, yeah? And can fluctuate from time to time. Another thing that can sometimes fluctuate may be your water bill and your transportation costs. Well, bus fare hasn't gone up in a while, but you may take the bus today and then decide to take a taxi tomorrow. And also your phone bill. That can also vary. So you have those things that change over a period, your variable costs. And then for some people, or most people, you have your wants, or what we will call discretionary expenses. And these are things, females know this well. And males may only have that barber once in a while, but we know that we need our hair done, our nails done. We want to stop by Starbucks. The wants are discretionary expenses. But under these discretionary expenses, things that don't come up that often or that frequent and may subject to change, the price may vary. There are more serious things like house repairs, or the replacing of appliances. Sometimes, out in the blue, the stove may not work, fridge may not work, or then you realize that, oh my goodness, we have termite infestation that you did not bargain for. So you may not want it, but some of these things appear. You have your discretionary expenses. So whatever they are, there are some things that are common. Depending on your lifestyle, depending on your family situation, there are some of these items that may not be applicable to you. So this is why I say that every individual plan or budget is unique to that person. Yeah? There may be even sometimes you may want to go on vacation. But whatever it is, you need to write it down, because you need to have that visual. We already went through all the things that we said why you need a plan, and remember that it is not a plan unless you write it down. You have to write it down. But It is all good to have a plan. It's all good to write it down. But you may write it down and don't look back at that paper. Don't look back at that book. So again, the key to freeing your finances is not only to have a plan, but it's also discipline. And some of us know how difficult discipline can be. Discipline. Have that plan and be disciplined. You write it down. It is like going to the supermarket sometimes. You decide, I'm going to the supermarket, I have a list. When you get there, then you realize, well, they have this thing that I didn't see in a long time ago, let me get this. No, you did not plan to get that. The money that you have can't cover it. But you decide to get it anyway. So you must be disciplined. Because if there is no discipline, the plan will fail. You must be disciplined. So the important key is planning, but of greater importance is the discipline. How will I follow this budget? How will I stick to what I have worked out or what somebody else has worked out for me? There are times when persons find themselves in financial difficulty. And from my experience, I have learned that when someone is going through financial difficulty, don't discount them, don't look down on them, just try to help that person. Because the person does not stay in that position forever. The situation can be reversed with discipline. There's so many times, I've seen persons go from rock bottom all the way down in the valley, back on the mountain top because they were disciplined. They followed the instructions of the persons who were advising them, and they were able to conquer the large debt that they have. In places like North America, there are actually companies who will help you go through such a program where you will allow your salary to go straight to that company. They will assist you in paying your bills, assist you in allocating the money where it should go, and they will pay you a certain amount. Now, persons who find themselves in dire financial straits, or if they want to achieve a goal, for example, of buying a house, they go through a rigorous program like that. And they achieve their goal. Now, you may not have that particular company that you can go to, that you can send all your income to, and they will monitor and control it for you. You may not have that at your disposal. But what you have at your disposal is discipline. So when it comes to, there's some people who can't go, window shopping. Remember when you were young, your mother would take you window shopping? There are some people, I believe that sometimes they do that, particularly coming on to Christmas, because they couldn't afford to buy the things, so they took you so that you can have a glance at it and, you will be satisfied. But there are some people who can't go window shopping because they're impulse buyers. They are impulse shoppers. They go, they see something, they didn't plan for it, they impulsively buy it. I have any friends here who are impulse shoppers? Don't raise your hand. Spur of the moment, unplanned. We have to control impulse shopping, particularly at this time of the year. You know something that always amazes me? Do you ever realize that Bajans generally, I'm a Bajan too, but Bajans generally change curtains every year? Where to put the other curtains though? That I always wonder about that. You put them away? Well, I probably need somebody to help me with that because I keep mine so long that by the time we go to wash them, they end up in shreds. But so sometimes though that could be as a result of impulse shopping. The impulse is Christmas is in the air and we need to get it. The house must have a change. But if you're putting them away, go back to the ones that you had 2 years ago. No? Somebody says no. Oh, this is funny. But sometimes when we need to tighten our belts, these are some of the things that we need to do. We have to stop buying on the whim and make sure that it is planned for. And before we get into actually looking at, we already outlined the components of the budget, the things that go into a budget, your income, your fixed expenses, variable expenses, etc. But before we look at that, let's consider some of the ways that we can actually save money. One of them is stop the impulse shopping. The other is making sure that you budget and you plan and you stick to that plan. And in your plan or in your budget, you make a provision to at least pay yourself something. You pay yourself. Agree? If you are a husband and wife team and you have a consolidated budget, you have the allowances for your wife or have the allowances for the husband and sometimes have the allowances for the children. But there must be somewhere in that budget where you have that me money that you can splurge and maybe buy a Kit Kat sometimes. Agree? Because if you don't, then you're going to take it from somewhere else in that plan to accommodate that urge when it comes. And we don't want that. We want to make sure that particularly our fixed expenses and those items we have are taken care of. There are several different ways we can save. Based on the deposit accounts in the banks, we know that Barbadians love to use the banks to save their money. If that is your preference, go right ahead. But I'm sure in the old time days, our grandmothers used to keep it in the house, keep it in the mattress, yes? Or somewhere. Maybe that's not advisable these days because thieves break in and steal. But there are lots of methods that you can use for saving money. Some people, for children, they use a piggy bank system. They may open, there's a particular credit union that has a young savers account. There are other banks that have accounts for children under the age of 16, under the age of 18, where the youth and young people are encouraged to save. But the reality is that not all of us may have a bank account. That's the honest truth. These days, though, especially if we are working, we are forced to open that account because most companies will no longer pay you in cash. They will pass your earnings through an account. So they say to you, you need to go, if you don't have your own account, you need to go and open an account at the bank where the company's account is at. So you have to go and open the account. So we end up in this age that the majority of persons have some type of account, particularly a savings account. But that savings account does not operate like a savings account, because the money goes in and every single cent comes off, because there's no plan. I see some person smiling. Don't worry, we were all at that point at some point in time where it goes in and we take off every single thing. But we are here because we want to get to that point where we don't take off every single thing. We leave something. Yeah? Besides the account at a financial institution, whether that is one of the well-known banks or well-known credit unions, or other forms of organizations that encourage saving and investing, depending on where it is. In addition to all those areas, you can save on your own at home. You have to find a good spot though, a safe spot. Recently there was an article, I can't remember if it was on Twitter or if it was just in one of the news of the websites, where they were complaining about a TikTok user talking about the 100 envelope challenge. You saw the article? Has anybody ever tried the 100 envelope challenge? That envelope challenge, what it does is that you get 100 envelopes and you mark them from 1 to 100. You mark them from 1 to 100, and then every time you open an envelope, depending on how much money you have, well, the persons on TikTok were saying, if you don't have the money in the first place, how are you going to put it in an envelope? They were also saying, well, you just put in money in the people that send in envelopes. If all these people are going to buy 100 envelopes. But here's an example of the 100 envelope challenge. We have 100 envelopes. Yeah? You mark the envelopes from 1 to 100. And every time you pull the envelope, you create a chart where you place the numbers of the envelopes on the chart. So you create that chart, and every time you open an envelope, you then mark off the envelope. I don't have the chart with me. So you have a chart that says 1 to 100, and you have the envelopes. The 100 envelope challenge is expected if you do 1 to 100. Every time you pull an envelope, you place the number of the envelope, that amount of money in the envelope. Yeah? If you are good at it, you can finish it in a year, and at the end of that year, you're expected to have over $5,000. Some time ago in our church, we had a challenge where we were asked to raise some money. You remember that challenge? The 52-week challenge? And we were able to raise dollars using that particular challenge. So my question to you is, if you can use that challenge to raise money for your church, your organization, why can't you use that challenge to raise money for yourself? Your pace of doing it may not be the same as somebody else's, but you can reach your goal. Some people may be able to afford to fill an envelope if you had 100 envelopes, and you don't necessarily have to have 100 envelopes. You can use less than 100 envelopes. Or you can decide, I need to save to pay off my student loan. And the balance of that loan is a small amount, but Christmas is coming up, or before New Year comes, I want to pay that off. And you might decide that for the next 10 weeks, I'm going to place $100 in an envelope towards that. But that is planning and accounting for it in your budget. So it is not necessarily a 100 envelope challenge, but it could be a cash envelope challenge that you use. I am almost at the end of my 100 envelope challenge, and I'm feeling really good about it. Been almost a year now, and I'm feeling really good about it. What will work for me will not work for you. As I indicated before, every person's plan or budget is unique to you. You have to know what your goals are, and you have to know what your plan is. You have to have a good understanding of what you're making, what your expenses are, and make the plan to suit what is coming in and what is going out. Now, there are some persons who are in serious financial straits. So when it comes to making a plan, they need someone to help them make a plan. They can't make the plan on their own because they've tried so many times and they failed. Or their heads are so confused by what is happening that they are unable to do it. So let's look at making a basic plan. So we have our income, and we're going to say that we only have one income. Yeah? There's some people who work for about minimum wage, yes? Which is about what? $250, $275 in your hand when the week comes. So let's take it up a notch and say I am working for $375 a week. Now when you can put this on your calculator, in 4 weeks, and we have $375, it means that in 4 weeks we have $1,500 in 4 weeks. So at a basic income of $1,500, yeah? We have a basic income of $1,500. What are some of the things, the expenses you believe that a person with a basic income of $1,500 would have? They would have a light bill, and what would they do? Approximately how much is the light bill? 100? How much? A month. 100 or 200? 100 for the light bill? $100. You feel that person has to pay water? Contribute. So let's say they're contributing $25 towards the water bill. What else do you think that person would have? Internet? They're contributing towards the internet, or depends on the household. So let's say they're contributing $20 towards the internet. And they certainly have a cell phone, yeah? And they're topping it every week to the tune of how much? How much per week? $10 per week. So we topping up the cell phone, let's put it at $50. What else would somebody like that have? They may have to take the bus or some sort of transportation. And if they're taking the bus every day, that's about $35 a week. It depends on how many buses. And let's leave it at one. So we have what? Let's make transportation at $150. Yeah? They're buying food, they're going to the supermarket, or because groceries is a variable expense. It changes over the period. So it's not a fixed expense. Your groceries, your money you spend on food is a variable expense. Sometimes it can be a discretionary expense, depending on if you want, I almost said wings. But I did say wings in the end. How much you think they spend in food a day? $20 in food a day? Or they're not buying food every day? In a week, how much money they spend on food? You know, I had a friend that always used to say, I can't go in the supermarket and buy food and then buy food from somebody else too. The two cannot work. Huh? The two can't work. So remember that. If you are going into the supermarket and you are spending money on your groceries and you are working out how much and what you're cooking during the week, you may not get everything you want. I actually heard a testimony this morning where the young man said that when he was growing up, they ate mackerel every other day. So you may not do that now, but there are times when you have to take into consideration what your income is. But it's advisable that if you are going to the supermarket to buy groceries, it does not make sense spending the money every day to buy food from somebody else. You can probably not go to the supermarket at all, and just go buy the food. Yeah? But so how much money you think? Let's say we have a young man, not personal, who is working, living home at his parents, working for minimum wage, but he's going to work every day, spending $150 in bus fare. What do you think he's spending on food? How much on food? Let's say if he's at work 5 days a week, and let's say food costs $20, and 3 out of those 5 days you buy food, that's $60 a week. You realize that $60 a week is $240 a month. So let's put it here. I mean, he still has a long way to go, but $240 a month. What else is he doing? He might have insurance, and he has to pay insurance, and the insurance is how much per month? A basic amount of $120. We are just trying to give you an idea of what we are writing down. Yeah? So, the young man is at church, just got saved, and you are in a church that believes in tithing or giving to God. So, you have your offerings. Let's say you put $5 minimum. Not that you should, but let's say you put $5 in the offering. That's $20 a month. And then you have to pay your tithes. If your church believes in paying tithes, which we do. And that's another $150, right? Yeah? So, we are almost halfway. What is also, there may be other things that you, let's say the person has a hire purchase bill, which they're paying $100 a month. Would young people have a MasterCard or another card that they have to pay? Some young people have a credit card. And the
I think you have to revisit transportation.
Okay, why?
Because if some of it you are doing for monthly,
Yes.
transportation at $150 an hour. Because
$150, that's $150. That's $150.
Is it $150?
Yeah. Yeah. Assuming that is a bus
One.
to and from, one bus.
When they're coming.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you have a credit card and your limit is $3,000, you are expected to pay $150 towards that credit card on a monthly basis. And let me tell you something about credit cards. They're good to have, they're interesting, but the recommendation is that if you're going to use them, pay them off immediately. In the old time days, when people left and went on holiday, you saved up all your money first, and you went to Miami or New York with all your money in your hand. Young people can't imagine that. And when you came back, you had nobody to pay. But persons don't do that anymore, particularly Generation Alpha. They get the credit card, or they go and get a travel loan, and that travel loan must be repaid in a year, because next year you may want to travel. So they subject themselves to a travel loan and a credit card. And they have a credit card limit of $3,000. They go to Miami, and the first day they spend $500 because they're so excited. Yeah? By the time you get back to Barbados, the credit card is maxed out. But when you come back home now, remember, you went to Miami in August, and your first payment was $500. Your first day, you spent $500. So you come back to Barbados in September, and you decide to make a payment on your card, and you pay $100. Let's say you went to Miami on the 15th of August, and you're back on the 15th of September. From the time you use that card on the 15th of August, it starts to attract interest on a daily basis. So you're already a month behind paying interest on $500. When you come now and you pay $100 payment on that credit card, plus all the other amounts that you spent up to the 15th of September, you have only paid $100. So you're paying interest of $400 from the 15th of August. We're done in October, and interest is like 22% for some people. So you're down in October, you've only paid $100, but you're paying 22% interest from as far back as August 15th.
Plus
You-
plus the foreign exchange fee.
Plus the foreign exchange fee. Yes. You are paying, so you see what's happening to your money? So you are making the minimum payment. In fact, you would have had to pay at least $150 on that card. But you're making the minimum payment. But the credit card isn't going anywhere because your minimum payment is $150 and your interest payment is $75. So it is one step forward and two steps back. So it is advisable, if you have that credit card, to make sure that you allocate within your budget enough funds, even if you double up on your payments, that you allocate money for that. It is more advisable that there are some organizations that will not allow you to put your credit card in credit because they may view it as a form of money laundering. They may not allow you to do that. There are some organizations that if your credit card goes into credit, they will reverse. When I say credit, it means that it is your money that you put on the card. Yeah? You put your money, you have a limit of $3,000, but you have not used that money. But when you look at your card, it has $4,000 because available because you put $1,000 on there. That's what I mean by putting your credit card in credit. There are some organizations that will not allow you to do that. If they see it, they will reverse the amount. But it's advisable that you set aside that money for that credit card payment so that you will be on top of those payments and not just paying back the finance charge on a monthly basis, whatever that interest payment is and whatever other charges. And then there are some institutions, most of them, that if you make that late payment and it's not made within 3 days after the payment is due, you're charged a late payment fee. And then when you think you're getting the credit card down, you forgot that it was the annual renewal date and the annual renewal fee went on to the credit card. There are some persons, some companies that entice you by your card may be down to $75, but they're telling you, oh, you can just make a minimum payment of $25. Whatever you have planned to pay, if it is beyond that $25, stick to your plan. So in this low income budget, monthly budget or monthly plan, these are some of the things that this person has. Yeah? So when we add these up, and we will add them up and as well put some other things onto them. So we're going to have a 5 here. $23 and 7 is 30 and 2 is 32. We're going to have a 2 here. Somebody could fact check me. 1125. 1125. Yeah? Exactly. So, at least we paid our tithes, we paid our offerings. It's recommended that you pay yourself 10%. Yeah? The motto that I use and I would say to my son is, save 10% and give the Lord 10%. Or the other way around, give the Lord 10% and save 10%. So even though we have this all the way here, it should really be all the way here. Because the formula is simple. God has really given you 100%. The 100% belongs to God. Think about that. All of this belongs to Him. All we are saying is give Him 10%. Suppose He decided that He was taking back the whole thing. We would pray it. So, sometimes it may seem really hard for those who are not used to paying tithes and those who have not planned to do it, especially if you have outstanding debt and you really want to cover those payments of debt. It will seem to you a really hard thing to give 10% to God. In fact, it will probably fight you. And the forces that work against us will put more pressure on you not to do it. But I challenge you, and I challenge you without reservation. I challenge you to the point that if you tried it and it did not work, I will pay you back the money that you paid in tithes. I challenge you to that extent. I challenge you that if you have not done it before, to do it. And you will find that as long as this is paid, you will always have money. Even if it looks like the money is not coming, it will come. And I say that without reservation upon the authority of God. It will come. He will supply your needs. He will supply it. So I challenge you to try that. So here now, we have some savings, and we still have a bit of funds left over. How much do we have left over? Right? Now, this is not perfect, okay? This is not perfect. It may be that some of those things there might change. Whatever it is for you, you need to do. You need to list what your priority items are, which will be your fixed expenses. And one fixed expense, well, I wouldn't call it an expense, but one fixed thing that you will remember to do is to pay your tithes and pay yourself. You will plan for major purchases. You want to buy something, plan for it. You want to go on vacation, you just don't wake up in June and decide, I'm going on vacation in August. No. Sometimes you have to plan that vacation for a whole year before you can make that vacation, setting aside a certain amount of money every month. Again, you can use, if you don't want to put the money in a financial institution, you can use the envelope for that, or your piggy bank, or whatever you want to use. You can use it for that, making sure, of course, that it's in the safe place. So we are going on vacation. This is what? October. We want to go on vacation July next year. We have November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. We have 8 months. In that 8 months, how can I include vacation money in my plan so that by almost 8 months, I can pay for that plane ticket? Now, if I have been setting aside my savings. And if possibly I have been setting aside some funds for, let's say, incidentals or miscellaneous items, $100 at least. If I have been setting aside some of that, I can use my incidental money and I can use some of my savings. Depends on what you are saving for though. The other thing that I would recommend is sometimes we may want to buy a new car. Save towards buying the new car. Now some banks will give you 100% financing on new cars. You go buy a car costs you $90-something thousand. 90-something thousand. Let's say you don't go for one of those high-end cars, you come a little lower down. You still have to pay at least $60,000 for that car. Now you know the bank is going to give you 100% financing, but can it fit in my plan? Can it fit in my budget? Do I have it included? When do I want to buy the car? The other thing that can happen is that you can start saving towards the car. You may not save a lot of money, but let's say you want to go to borrow $60,000, depending, and you spend a few months saving because you say next year I need a car, and you saved up about $5,000. You can offer that money to the financial institution to be held as security, to be held against the cost of the car. So you say to them, let's say you had $60,000. I have $60,000, but I don't want to spend the money. I want to go through the discipline of you lending me the money and I paying it back. But you would hold my money in case I don't pay this loan. So they agree to hold that cash security, that money on the account, against whatever you're borrowing. You go through the discipline of including the car payment, which could be might be lower than that, but could be as much as that. You go through the discipline of making that payment because it fits in your budget. You don't force it. You know, people used to say if it don't fit, don't force it. You don't force it into the budget. It must fit comfortably with money left over for you for these things, for savings and miscellaneous. So it must fit comfortably into your budget. If it doesn't fit, then you're not ready to buy that car. Because you drive that car off the lot, whichever lot it comes from, and you hit somebody. You still have to look for money to repay that car. And insurances these days put you through the ringer before they pay out money. They do. You have to get the estimate, they have to send somebody to make sure, even if you got the estimate from a garage, they have to send their person to review the car, to look at the estimate, and then in the end they may not even give you what the estimate costs, because the person that they send may say, well, I don't agree with the garage, I don't see this or I don't see that. That can happen. So whenever you are doing major purchases, ensure that they are a part of your plan. Yeah? They must be a part of your plan. Now, as I said, your income may not be $1,500. Your income may be You may have two sets of income. One might be $3,000 and the next may be $2,000. You may have an income of $5,000. But whatever your income is, I am sure that your expenses may match. Some people may not have a light bill nor a water bill. They may not even have internet. But they may have a cell phone, and the cell phone bill might not be $50, it might be $200. They may not have bus fare, but you are putting $150 in gas in the car every 3 weeks. Every week? Every week? Okay. So you may be putting $500 in gas in the car in a month, but your income here, so you may be putting $500 in gas in the car. You may go to the supermarket every 2 weeks, and depending on your family, you may be spending $600 every 2 weeks at the supermarket. Yeah? Some people do that. Or you spend $300 every 2 weeks. It's easy for that bill to get to $300 real fast. Real fast. And you might have to drink too much butter. Don't talk about if you go to places like, I won't call any names, but you know, there's some places in Warrens and so, when you look at the meat prices, and you all realize that every single thing gone up. And then there's some people who boast on how less things will cost. But when you check other places, the things that the place that will cost less cost more. No, I'm so serious. You can get some luncheon meat from a popular supermarket for $4.59 a can, right? At one of those places where things may cost less, you're paying $24.95. Right? Tell me something. Which one is a little cheaper? Or you're paying $24.99? Which one is a little cheaper? For 4 cans. Whatever you work out. Exactly. Because 4 6s already are 24 and you still have the 95 cents to add. And we only paying $4.59 at the other place. There are other prices that I could quote you. Everything in the supermarket has gone up by $2. Sometimes more than that. So when you go and you think that, oh, I'm good, you know, I'm a middle income earning $5,000 a month. I mean, there are persons who earn $10,000 a month. But you're thinking I'm middle income earning $5,000 a month. But when you get to that food bill, and you get to that mortgage, then you're almost as if you're only earning $1,500 a month. You're in the same position as that person. But whatever position you're in, all I'm saying is there are some priorities that you need to focus on. There are some fixed expenses and the variable expenses and the discretionary. You have to control your spending. There's some people who have 5 hire purchase accounts. And you have to be careful with that because Barbados has a credit rating system. It is now being reinforced more than it was before. But way back in the 1980s, there was always a type of credit report system started by a young man, I won't call his name. But now that credit reporting system has become more formalized, it will impact persons who do not pay their bills. So the thing is, if you have 5 hire purchase accounts, see if you can get those accounts down. If you have 2, if you have 3. And then there are some stores, companies, who also have their own card. In essence, that's not a hire purchase account. but it's still a card that you owe, that you have to make a monthly payment on. So wherever possible, you keep those cards at minimum, use them in emergencies, and wherever possible, save towards those major purchases. If you know that Christmas coming and you just want to buy a new fridge because it is Christmas, start saving from January. And you don't have to buy a $5,000 fridge. You want that $3,000 worth just as good. Yeah? So save, start saving Christmas down the road. This fridge going bad. It may not be that you're just buying it because you want to buy it. You may look at it and see that, you know, in a few months you need something new. But plan towards that. Plan towards that. But you can only do that if you plan, if you budget. A budget is that plan that shows you where your money is going and how it should go, where it should go. So you need to plan that. So the questions you have to ask yourself is, how am I really managing my money? When I look around, am I making the most effective use of my resources? What am I doing? Do I have a goal in mind to pay for my child's education? Children at school, do they need a new laptop? Whatever we do, we have to make sure that we plan. The process, planning is that process of matching what the income we have to the expenses we have. In fact, matching our expenses to our income. Because some people have the income, but they don't match the expenses to it. They don't make sure they balance. The expenses far exceed the income. And if your expenses continue to exceed your income in at least 3 consecutive months, you're in trouble. It might happen 1 month, but don't let it happen 2, or try not to let it happen 2. So we have to achieve that balance between what we are paying out and what we are actually getting in. And we need to do it month by month. Another thing that we probably need to do, and we are all okay with, you're good with this, right? You understand what you need to do. So when you go away from here and you have to start doing this, and when we come to 0, is that we have that 0 balance budget, okay? So let's bring it to 0. Wherever we have to fill in here, bring to 0 and have that 0 balance budget. And we will put the residue, if there's anything left over, we put it into our savings. The other thing that we need to do, and I would advise you to do this. Have you ever had money in your purse and it disappeared and then you could remember what you did with it? I challenge you. From tomorrow, you have $50 in your purse. At the end of the day, start writing down, where did that $50 go? Because sometimes in one day, you cannot believe the money you spend. So to help yourself, start tracking every single cent that you spend. Do that for a week. And then you would realize, I really didn't need to buy, 2 Frosty ice creams at $26 from Chipette. many gas stations have them for 24 or 25. Well, I'm not sure if that company has it at that price, but that's just an example. And they are popular for that brand of ice cream. But when you start tracking what you have been spending, it brings into sharp focus where your money is going. It helps you to realize that I am not really getting the best out of the money I have, and I need to get the best out of the money we have. So, in addition to tracking your stuff for a week, try that. We are going to promise that we will plan, make a plan, make a budget, starting now, on a monthly basis, month to month. If you get paid by week, week to week, over the next 2 to 3 months, we will do that. And at the end of 3 months, we will see how closer we are to freeing up finances. Because we need to free up our finances. There are reasons why we need to free them up. We need to free up some of our money. Because we need to know if we have any residue that we can invest. We can buy some bonds. We can buy an endowment plan. We can buy some mutual funds, or whether or not we can just leave it in a good savings account until we find we accumulate some more to make a better investment. Because the aim is that that money must work for us. And as experience has taught us, there were times when we felt young and lively and nothing would happen. You know, we will get old and the government will pay us a pension. But nothing in life remains the same. And we are learning that slowly and surely. So, we recognize that when we work, particularly in a government institution or any other institution for that matter, 40 is not too early to start a pension plan. Because when you retire, generally, whatever pension you will get from your workplace, I mean, sometimes you get a big lump sum amount, you know. Some people get 500,000, 300,000. But if they're not careful, that money goes in the jiffy. Some people may only get 60,000, depending on where you're at. But the reality is, that monthly intake that we were so used to before we retired, that amount will be cut in half, approximately. So now is the time to open that separate retirement plan or an additional retirement plan, or when I say retirement plan or pension plan, or have an endowment policy. So let's start it. We promise? So as we write down what we do during the day with our money, we are labeling our income. You will label your income and determine, okay, no more coffee, and no more spending all that money on cappuccinos. You know, some people sell those cappuccinos, the Nestle cappuccinos. Some people sell them $7.50. Some people sell them $8. Well, I mean, they taste real good though. But you can make your own cappuccino though. Huh? By the time you buy 2 of them, you don't have your bottle of coffee. And I'm sure there's always milk somewhere around. So something like that, and you know, I'm talking to myself right now. Something like that is where you can save, you know, if you really need to save money, you can save money on that. Agreed? Agreed. We love, you know how we love the ring dings? I won't call it. Some people love these things, you know? But you could do your own though. and I'm sure they will taste better. So think about stuff like that. Or you may want to go out and buy food. But you ever realize, right? The day that you really want to go out and buy some food, not fast food this time, but some good tasting food from somebody. But you just ain't got the money. But you scrape up every single thing in the fridge and cook it. It tastes real good. Y'all so tremendously agreeing with me. So why we don't do that all the time? Discipline. So as I come to the end and I ask you what other questions you have to me, I will remind you, freeing the finances, re-releasing them, and what money is and what finances cover. Money is part of finances, but finances cover everything that could possibly have a cash value attached to it. And as we look at that, the two things that are key. What are the two things? Planning and discipline. You have to plan. And you can't keep it in your head. Write it down. If it is not written down, it is not a plan. Write it down. And the other thing I would say, again, before we come to the end, is that, God has allowed us to be living in this age where we have computers. If you don't have one, you have your phones. You can have Microsoft Word on your phones, on your computer, Microsoft Excel on your computer. These are great tools to help you create your budget. In Excel, you have all the formulas. You can add, you can subtract, you can multiply. You just need to learn how to do them. And I don't know about you, but YouTube is my best friend. You can learn anything on YouTube. Huh? How to cook some honey glazed garlic chicken wings falling off the bone. You can learn how to do Excel, how to create your spreadsheet. Anything you want, you can learn on YouTube. Aren't we living in a fantastic age? So you have no excuse. I mean, you can go on and write your own budget, add it up, with your calculator, or add it like some people add, 2 and 2 is 4. Doesn't matter. But as long as you get into working it. So, you just can, you were really interactive and lively, etc. But it is one thing to be interactive and lively here. But when you go through those doors, you have to put it into practice. Yes? Have to put it into practice. Any questions? Any questions at all? Anything you would like to ask about? We're ready and willing to answer.
I would like to know, I would like to know when it is, or where it is that when you decide that you're going to put down some money. After you decide to save some, you get some extra money, so let me put this away. You can't start getting in trouble. Something wrong with your health. Things like that here.
But I think it would be easier if you had asked me to add up some stuff. But I will ask you anyway. When some things like that happen, and actually this was something that was said by a minister that I know. You have to, and this minister was dealing with deliverance and living and walking in victory. When things like that happen, you have to speak to the car. That sound funny? Car, I don't have the money for you right now. So you have to take me to point X or point Y. We think that the name of Jesus and the blood of Jesus only good for certain things. But it's good for everything. It's good for everything. So, and the body start to ache. Pray. Say, Lord, if this is from you, deal with it. Lord, if it's from the enemy, we rebuke it, cast it behind in the name of Jesus. But there's some times when you have to speak positively in your life, because deep within our psyche, we know that that money is becoming available. So you have to be disciplined enough to follow through and speak to certain things. That's my answer. That's my answer. Because what I will continue by saying, there are times when you've been sick, I am sure, and you didn't have the money to go to the doctor, and you made it through, and you didn't die, because you did not have the money to go to the doctor. But when the money is easily there and reachable, we suddenly kind of believe like the blood of Jesus don't work though, the stripes not working anymore, the money will work instead. But if you did not have that money, you would find all sorts of grandmother remedies, and you didn't have the money, you understand? But because you have the money, you suddenly can't use certain remedies anymore. You're flying into the doctor's office. But deep in your psyche knows that money there. But tell yourself, no, that money is earmarked for X. So I will get on my knees, pray for healing, and we moving forward. If I need to take a particular remedy, I will do that. If I need a call for the elders to pray, I will do that. And you will be surprised at the feeling that will come over you. Because you have set your mind to a certain thing. The mind is a fascinating tool, you know. Fascinating tool. All of a sudden the hairstyle look bad. But it's because you know you have money burning in your pocket that you can go and change your hairstyle. If that money wasn't burning in your pocket, you would tie up the hair, flip it here, do this. Y'all ever try that? There are some females in here. Sometimes we have to go someplace and we tell ourselves we ain't got nothing to wear. But we don't have the money to buy something. But by the time we go through that closet and we find something, you turn up, you know, and somebody say, oh, you look real nice, this is a new dress. You understand me? That's how life is. Any other questions?
What can you offer on someone that has a variable income? There's not fixing.
Well, my advice for the variable income is that you can control that variable income, you know, in a sense, because let's say I'm a hair braider. And I have no control over how many people come in any given month to braid hair. There's some things that I can put in place. If I know that I have 5 women in here that will get the hair braided, and I need to control that income, or if generally I have 5 people that get the hair braided, yeah? I can stagger that so that at least I get 2 or 3 in 1 month. Because if I put one at the beginning of a month, by the next month she gotta come back. You agree with me? And if I put one in the middle, the one that didn't come in that month at all has to come back. So I am still ending up with 2. So there are some ways that you can control variable income, that even though you have no control about when the people will come or how they will come, there's some suggestions that you can use to control that. The other thing that you can do is that you can look at your good months. In this month I made X. I only charge like $50 to braid hair. So in my good month, I made $250 in that month. In my bad month, I only made $100. So I take the medium between the two, and I plan for that. The days that I get, the months that I have extra, I can set that aside. But what I do is I don't plan for the maximum. I plan for a point. Because I will tell you, there are times when you go to a financial institution for a loan and they ask you for their income. There's some people who may be getting child support. There's some people who may be having somebody who gives them money every month or something. The bank will never take 100% of that to determine what your disposable income. They will take a percentage of that amount you're getting. So you have to do the same thing for yourself. You try to take the medium and work with that. So in the months when it comes in as more, you have something else to set aside. In the months when it does not come in as more, you are breaking even, so to speak. And then those months that come in as more, you can set that aside, because you can have a running balance of what your variable income is as well. Keep a running total and where you place in that income. So in the months that you have more, that will make up for those months when it is not what it should be. So you can do that midstream point between the maximum and the minimum. Or the other thing you do is just work with the minimum, and if the maximum comes in, then you make provision for that. But you can also control it. I was saying to a young lady who has a aesthetic business, you also have to get on the phone, especially if you are self-employed and you have one of those creative businesses where you depend on people to come to you. Sometimes you have to get on the phone and make calls and be consistent in your calling so that you maintain the number of visits that you will get in any one month. Because if you fail to do that, and when you work for yourself, you work harder than when you work for somebody else. So if you fail to maintain that client contact, you will fail to make income. So you have to find that way to make client contact and keep that clientele coming. You know, you be the best customer service person you can be. So that's a suggestion. But whatever you do, pay the Lord 10% and pay yourself 10%. That 10% that you pay yourself will come in. You may not always be able to pay yourself 10% because of what you may have to catch up on. You understand me? Because, you know, we're being real here. Some of us have real bills. You understand? That we're trying to get down, yes? So you may not always be able to pay yourself that 10%, but pay yourself something, even if it is $20. Because in 4 weeks, $20 is $100. So it's $100 that you never had. That is set aside, even if you put it in an envelope and keep it there before you take it to your financial institution. Because you probably don't want a financial institution to know that you just come and deposit $20, every week. Although I will tell you, many years ago, there was a man who used to catch the bus from St. Philip and come to a bank and deposit $5. I am so serious. So every time you saw him coming through the door, a Friday evening, you knew what he was coming to do. So that's it. Any other questions? So we come to the end of our Friday talk about freeing our finances. We did not go into things like making the investments because I think we need to do some releasing of these finances first, and then we can talk about investing them. But The cash envelope system works. The piggy bank works. Those things work. You know, those of you who are a little aged like me, you know, when you used to have camera film in these little round things, these black containers, well, we all know those. I thought I was the only old person here. those black containers that used to hold film, they hold $25 coins. Yeah? You know how much money I have saved with those black containers? $25 coins. So you don't find them now, but if you find one, start putting your dollar coins in. You have 25, put it in a bag, save the other 25. So from now you have $100. There are ways you can do it. And you can save towards that thing that you need. But plan, be disciplined, create that budget. You must write it down. You must be disciplined and follow it. Yes? So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for being so interactive. God bless you.
Reverend Eversley. We want to give you this small token of appreciation. I am sure that all of us here, we would agree that it was informative. And for sure, I'm going to put that 100 envelope into action. I'm going to go home. I like the challenge. Yes, and I'm going to put that into action. And we just want to say thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you of giving of your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, I just want to thank everyone for coming out and sharing in this moment with us. And thank you to those online as well. Before we leave, I'm just going to ask you to just place your offering in the basket, which is at the back as usual. And again, thank you. You know, we have work tomorrow, so we pray that you get home safely and you're rejuvenated for tomorrow. And we will put the plan into action. We're going to plan and budget, and we're going to be disciplined. And I will try to do it myself too. I forget about all the wings, all the food. But yeah, so I'm excited to start this journey. And one thing that I would add is to get an accountability partner. Get someone that you can be accountable to. And if you want to do the challenge, like, do the challenge together, the envelope challenge or some other challenge that you can do together, but have somebody that you will be accountable to, and you all can do that together. We have some refreshments in the back, so just going to encourage you to stay so you can have a quick refreshment. All right, again, thank you and have a good night.